invitation that never got an answer. What if I told you one of the greatest heroes in Cleveland Cavaliers history just ignored the people who helped him create that history? Not decline, not apologize, not even answer. Because according to J.R. Smith, that's exactly what happened. 10 years after the Cavaliers completed the greatest comeback in NBA Finals history, the brotherhood that once shocked the basketball world reunited to celebrate one unforgettable championship. LeBron James was there, Kevin Love was there, Tristan Thompson, Richard Jefferson, Channing Frye, and J.R. Smith all made the trip to Scotland, spending several days together, reliving the memories that changed Cleveland forever. But one chair stayed empty, the player who buried perhaps the biggest shot in franchise history, Kyrie Irving. At first, fans assumed there had to be a reason. Maybe he was busy recovering from injury, maybe he had family commitments, maybe scheduling simply didn't work out. Then J.R. Smith stepped into the comment section and changed the entire conversation with one sentence. He revealed that Kyrie had been invited, everyone reached out, everyone expected him, but according to J.R., Kyrie never responded. No explanation, just silence. That single revelation instantly transformed what looked like an innocent reunion into one of the biggest NBA conversations of the offseason. Because this wasn't simply about missing a golf trip in Scotland, this was about the most unforgettable trio in Cavaliers history. LeBron James, Kyrie Irving, the 2016 championship. For years, fans believed time had healed whatever happened after Kyrie requested a trade in 2017. They watched LeBron publicly praise Kyrie. They saw Kyrie acknowledge mistakes from the past. Rumors of another reunion surfaced several times over the years, making many believe the relationship had quietly improved behind closed doors. But if everything was truly repaired, why ignore the invitation? Why disappear when every other champion showed up? Was this simply a personal decision? Or was it another sign that some wounds from Cleveland never completely healed? The timing couldn't have created a bigger mystery. This reunion wasn't organized overnight. It was a carefully planned celebration marking the 10th anniversary of one of the greatest achievements in NBA history. The group spent days together, playing golf, sharing dinners, laughing over old stories, and celebrating the championship that forever connected their names. Everyone who lived that miracle was there, except the man who delivered the shot that broke Golden State's heart. That absence immediately sparked thousands of theories across social media. Some fans accused Kyrie of disrespecting his former teammates. Others argued there had to be a deeper reason nobody knew. Some believed his ongoing recovery from a torn ACL explained everything. Others weren't buying it, because when someone doesn't even acknowledge an invitation from teammates who once fought beside him on basketball's biggest stage, people naturally begin asking much bigger questions. And once those questions started, the entire history between Kyrie Irving and LeBron James suddenly came back into focus. A history filled with championships, unforgettable moments, private frustrations, trade rumors, public controversies, and relationships that may never have been as healed as fans wanted to believe. Before we uncover how one of the NBA's greatest partnerships slowly unraveled into this awkward silence, tell us where you're watching from today. If you think there's more to this story than we've heard so far, hit 1 the comments. If you believe Kyrie simply moved on with his life, hit 2. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications, because what happened behind the scenes after that unforgettable 2016 championship is far more complicated than most fans ever realized. The reunion that exposed everything. The Scotland trip looked like a celebration on the surface, but underneath it, one missing face turned the entire reunion into a mystery. Tristan Thompson posted the photo, and at first, it felt like pure nostalgia. LeBron James standing with the same men who helped him deliver Cleveland's first major sports championship in more than half a century. Smith, Kevin Love, Channing Frye, Richard Jefferson, Tristan, all linked back together like the old group chat had finally come alive again. But NBA fans notice everything. Within minutes, the comments shifted from celebration to investigation. Where is Kyrie? That one question took over the post because Kyrie Irving was not some random role player from that roster. He was the second star, the closer, the shot maker, the man who looked Stephen Curry in the eye in Game 7 and hit the 3 that changed Cleveland forever. So when he was not there, the internet did what it always does. It filled the silence with theories. Maybe Kyrie was never invited. Maybe the group left him out. Maybe the old Cavs core had quietly chosen a side after all these years. Then J.R. Smith shut that down. He made it clear Kyrie was invited, and according to him, Kyrie simply never answered. That is what made the story explode. Because ignoring a reunion like this is different from missing it. Missing it can be scheduling. Ignoring it feels personal. And when the person doing the ignoring is Kyrie Irving, a player whose relationship with LeBron James has been debated for years, fans immediately knew this was bigger than a vacation. This was a reminder that championship banners can hang forever, but relationships do not always survive the weight of what happened behind them. The trip was planned, public, and emotional. It was built around memories that still mean everything to Cleveland. But Kyrie's silence created a shadow over the whole thing, and now the question was no longer where Kyrie was. The real question became this: what happened between those men that made a championship reunion feel impossible for one of its biggest heroes? Chap 3. The shot that should have tied them forever. To understand why Kyrie's absence hit so hard, you have to go back to the night that made him immortal in Cleveland. Game 7, 2017 NBA Finals. Oracle Arena. The Cavaliers were facing a Golden State Warriors team that had won 73 games and looked almost untouchable. Cleveland had fallen behind 3-1. And most of the basketball world had already buried them. The Warriors were supposed to finish the job. The Cavs were supposed to become another team that came close and walked away heartbroken. But LeBron James and Kyrie Irving refused to follow that script. Game 5 changed the energy. Both of them dropped 40 points, becoming the first teammates in finals history to do it in the same game. Suddenly, Cleveland had life. Game 6 brought the series back even. Then came Game 7, the kind of night where every possession felt like it could rewrite history. Late in the fourth quarter, the score was tied at 89. The building was shaking. The season was hanging in the air. Then Kyrie got the ball. He stood across from Stephen Curry, the league's two-time MVP, the face of the 7-3 win Warriors. The player who had changed basketball with his shooting, Kyrie dribbled, measured him, created just enough space, and rose up with no fear. The shot dropped. Cleveland took the lead, and the city that had waited 52 years finally had its moment. LeBron had the chase down block that became legendary. Kevin Love had the defensive stand that helped seal it. But Kyrie's three was the dagger. It was the shot every Cavs fan can still see clearly. The shot that plays every June. The shot that made Kyrie part of Cleveland forever. That kind of moment is supposed to bond teammates for life. That is what made this reunion so uncomfortable. Because the player who created one of the most emotional shots in NBA history was not standing beside the men who shared it with him. And that made fans wonder whether history can connect people even after trust is already broken apart. The crack that started behind closed doors. The public version of the Kyrie and LeBron split always sounded simple. Kyrie wanted his own team. He wanted out of LeBron's shadow. He asked for a trade and moved on. But the real story was never that clean. Behind the scenes, the tension had been building long before Kyrie left Cleveland. Reports suggested Kyrie believed the organization had already explored moving him before he ever officially asked out. That belief changed everything. From Kyrie's side, it felt like loyalty had already been broken. Around the 2017 offseason, there were discussions involving possible trades that could have sent Kyrie elsewhere, while Cleveland searched for another star-level piece. Names like Paul George, Eric Bledsoe, Damian Lillard, and Chris Paul were connected to rumors and conversations around the league. Whether every detail was real or not, the important part was what Kyrie believed. He believed he was no longer fully protected, and once a star believes that, the relationship can change fast. For LeBron, the situation looked different. He has always pushed back on the idea that he wanted Kyrie gone. There have been reports saying he actually wanted Cleveland to keep Kyrie, but sometimes in the NBA, perception becomes more powerful than reality. If a player thinks he is being discussed in trade talks, he does not wait for the truth to arrive politely. He reacts. And Kyrie reacted by taking control of his own future. That is where the partnership started to lose its foundation. The two men had just reached 3 straight finals together. They had completed the greatest comeback the league had ever seen. On the court, they were still dangerous. But inside the relationship, something had shifted. Kyrie no longer wanted to feel like a supporting character in someone else's empire. He wanted his own voice, his own direction, his own power. LeBron was still the center of Cleveland's universe. Kyrie wanted to know what life looked like outside of that gravity. And once that thought entered the room, there was no easy way to remove it. When Cleveland lost its second star, when Kyrie Irving was traded to Boston in 2017, it felt like the Cavaliers lost more than a player. They lost the balance of their championship identity. LeBron was still there. Kevin Love was still there. The franchise still had talent, experience, and expectations. But the magic from 2016 was never the same without Kyrie. His ability to create a shot from nothing, attack defenses under pressure, and close games with cold confidence gave Cleveland something almost impossible to replace. That is why the trade felt so shocking. Not just the fans. Reportedly, even LeBron was caught off guard. The image of LeBron hearing the news and going silent became part of the story because it showed how complicated everything had become. If he truly wanted Kyrie gone, why react with surprise? But if he did not want Kyrie gone, why did Kyrie feel pushed far enough to request the trade? That contradiction is what made the breakup so messy. There was no perfect villain. There was only a partnership that had carried a city to glory. then collapsed under pressure, pride, rumors, and mistrust. Kyrie went to Boston looking for his own stage. He wanted leadership. He wanted freedom. He wanted to prove he could be more than the star next to LeBron James. But the Cleveland chapter did not close cleanly. His farewell did not feel warm enough for many fans. His relationship with LeBron remained a topic. Every interview, every quote, every rumor was examined like evidence. People wanted to know whether there was bitterness, regret, or unfinished respect hiding underneath the surface. And in many ways, that question has followed both men ever since. Because when two stars win together at the highest level, fans expect the story to end with brotherhood. But the NBA does not always work that way. Sometimes winning hides problems instead of solving them. Sometimes the trophy comes before the conversation that needed to happen. And sometimes the celebration ends long before the emotional damage does. That may be exactly why one ignored invitation years later still feels so loud. The apology that did not fully close the door. For a while, it seemed like time might have softened everything. In 2019, Kyrie reportedly reached out to LeBron and apologized for some of the things he had not understood when they were teammates. At the time, Kyrie was trying to lead in Boston, and suddenly he seemed to realize how difficult LeBron's role in Cleveland had really been. That moment mattered. It suggested maturity, it suggested reflection, it suggested that maybe the old tension had finally found some peace. LeBron responded with respect, and fans immediately started imagining a healed relationship. Maybe the bitterness was gone. Maybe the two former champions had finally grown enough to understand each other. Maybe one day they could even play together again. And that idea never fully disappeared. Every time Kyrie's future became uncertain, LeBron's name appeared somewhere in the conversation. Lakers, rumors, Dallas speculation, reunion theories. Fans kept trying to pull the two men back into the same story because their basketball chemistry was too special to forget. But respect is not always the same as closeness. You can forgive someone and still not want to relive the past with them. You can appreciate what you built and still feel no desire to stand inside that old room again. That is why the Scotland reunion raises new questions. If the relationship was truly repaired, why would Kyrie not respond? Maybe there was no anger. Maybe there was no message. Maybe he was simply focused on his recovery, his family, and his own priorities. But in a league where silence speaks loudly, not answering former teammates carries, meaning whether Kyrie intended it or not. The apology may have closed one emotional door, but it did not erase the full history. It did not erase trade rumors. It did not erase years of pressure. It did not erase the feeling of being the second star in a story the world always made about LeBron. And maybe that is the hardest truth. The relationship may be peaceful now, but peaceful does not always mean close. The Brooklyn controversy changed the energy. Again, another layer was added in 2022 when Kyrie Irving faced one of the most intense public controversies of his career during his time with the Brooklyn Nets. After sharing a link to a documentary that drew major criticism for harmful material, Kyrie became the center of a national conversation that moved far beyond basketball. The Nets suspended him, Nike ended its partnership with him, reporters pressed him for answers, and the situation grew heavier with every interview. At that point, people wanted to know what LeBron would say. LeBron had history with Kyrie. They had won together. They had been through pressure, criticism, and championship expectations together. So when LeBron spoke, his words carried weight. He made it clear that he did not support harmful ideas toward any community and said Kyrie's actions had caused pain. For many people, that was the right response. But for some close to Kyrie, it may have felt like another moment where LeBron did not fully stand beside him. Then LeBron later said the punishment seemed excessive after Kyrie apologized, arguing he should be allowed to return and play. That placed LeBron in the middle. He criticized the action but questioned the punishment. To the public, that may have looked balanced. But in personal relationships, the middle can feel complicated. When someone is going through one of the loneliest moments of their career, they may not hear balance. They may hear distance. That does not mean LeBron was wrong. It does not mean Kyrie was right. It means their relationship became even harder to define. They were not enemies. They were not fully reunited. They were somewhere in between, connected by history, but separated by choices, values, and years of unresolved emotion. That is why the reunion absence hit differently. It was not just about 2016. It was about everything that came after. The trade, the silence, the apology, the controversy, the public statements, the years of people trying to guess whether LeBron and Kyrie were still truly connected. And now, once again, one quiet decision from Kyrie has reopened every question. Kyrie's new priority. There is another side to this story that should not be ignored. While his former Cavaliers teammates were in Scotland, Kyrie Irving was reportedly focused somewhere else, spending time around young players and continuing his recovery from a serious ACL injury. That detail matters because it shows a different version of Kyrie than the one people often argue about online. At this stage of his career, Kyrie may not be chasing nostalgia. He may be chasing peace. He is no longer the to 4-year-old guard who hit the shot in Oakland. He is older now. He has been through Boston, Brooklyn, Dallas, injuries, criticism, controversy, and constant public judgment. He has lived through the highs and the consequences of being one of the most unpredictable stars in the league. And through all of that, he has also built a reputation for showing up in ways that do not always become headline stories. Kyrie has helped communities. He has supported students, families, schools, and causes that matter to him. He has connected with young athletes. He has used parts of his platform in ways that are personal, quiet, and often separate from the NBA spotlight. That does not erase the drama, but it does complicate the picture. Maybe Kyrie did not skip the reunion because he hates anyone. Maybe he simply does not want to keep being pulled back into the Cleveland chapter every time people want a feel-good moment. For fans, 2016 is sacred. For Kyrie, 2016 may be both beautiful and painful. It was the peak of his young career, but also the beginning of the constant conversation about whether he could ever escape LeBron's shadow. Every replay of the shot celebrates him, but it also ties him back to a version of himself he may no longer want to be defined by. That is what makes this situation so layered. Kyrie can love what happened and still not want to attend the reunion. He can respect the championship and still not want to stand in that old circle. He can be grateful for Cleveland and still choose to move forward. And maybe that is the part fans struggle with most. The 3 truths behind the silence. There are 3 possible truths behind Kyrie Irving's silence, and all of them say something different about where he stands today. The first truth is the most dramatic. Maybe Kyrie intentionally avoided the reunion because the old wounds are still there. Maybe the history with LeBron, the trade rumors, the pressure, the feeling of being misunderstood, and the way things ended in Cleveland created a distance that never fully healed. If that is true, then J.R. Smith's comment did not expose a scheduling issue. It exposed an emotional reality. The second truth is more personal. Maybe Kyrie has simply moved on. Maybe he does not see the need to revisit 2016 the way fans do. To Cleveland, that championship is forever. To Kyrie, it may be one chapter in a much longer journey. A meaningful chapter, yes, but not the whole book. If he is focused on recovery, family, young players, and the next stage of his life, then a reunion trip may not have felt important enough to answer. The third truth is probably the most realistic. Maybe it is both. Maybe Kyrie has moved on, but part of the reason he moved on is because that chapter still carries weight. People are rarely simple, relationships are rarely clean, especially in the NBA, where friendship, business, legacy, and ego are constantly mixed together. That is why this story refuses to fade. It is not because Kyrie missed a trip. It is because the trip reminded everyone that the 2016 Cavaliers were not just a perfect brotherhood frozen in time. They were real people, real teammates, real stars with real tension underneath the celebration. The banner is simple. The relationships behind it are not. And now every fan has to decide how they see Kyrie's silence. Was it disrespect? Was it growth? Was it pain? Or was it just Kyrie being Kyrie, moving in a way only he fully understands? Whatever the answer is, one thing is clear. The 2016 Cavaliers may have won together forever, but that does not mean they all healed together forever. What this story really teaches us. In the end, Kyrie Irving's missing response may say more about life than basketball, because championships are supposed to feel permanent. The banner stays, the highlights stay, the photos stay, the city remembers forever. But the people inside those moments keep changing. They grow older, they carry private memories, they process pain differently. They decide what parts of the past they want to keep close and what parts they need to leave behind. That is the real lesson in this Cavaliers reunion story. LeBron James, Kyrie Irving, J.R. Smith, Kevin Love, Tristan Thompson, and the rest of that 2016 team gave Cleveland something that can never be taken away. They completed the impossible comeback. They beat a 7-3 win Warriors team. They turned heartbreak into history. But winning together does not guarantee staying close forever. From a strategic basketball perspective, the Kyrie-LeBron partnership worked because their games solved each other's problems. LeBron controlled the floor, attacked defenses, and created pressure. Kyrie punished every gap with elite shot making and fearless one-on-one scoring. Together, they were dangerous because one player bent the game and the other could end it. But emotionally, the same dynamic created pressure. LeBron's greatness came with a massive shadow. Kyrie's talent came with a need for independence. The team won because they fit on the court, but their personal timelines were not always moving in the same direction. That is something every team can learn from. Talent is not enough. Communication matters. Respect matters. Trust matters. And when people feel unheard for too long, even the biggest victories cannot erase that feeling. For fans, the lesson is also important. We can celebrate history without forcing every player to live inside it forever. Kyrie's absence may feel disappointing, but it also reminds us that athletes are human. They have complicated relationships, private priorities, and emotional boundaries the public may never fully understand. Maybe one day Kyrie and the old Cavs group will sit together again. Maybe they will laugh about this. Maybe they will finally have the conversation fans keep imagining. Or maybe peace will simply mean distance. Either way, the 2016 championship still matters. The shot still matters. The comeback still matters. And even if the Brotherhood looks different now, the history remains untouched. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think Kyrie was wrong for not responding? Or do you think he has the right to leave that chapter behind? Comment 1 if you think he should have shown up. And comment 2 if you think he has already moved on. Make sure you subscribe, like this video, and share it with another NBA fan. Because stories like this prove that basketball is never just about the game.